Thank you. And the recording has started. So I'm calling this meeting of the Public Safety Communications Task Force to order. It is 1:08 p.m. on December 1st, 2023, and I'm Barbara Neal. As a reminder, the meeting is being recorded, and that recording will be posted to the task force webpage following the meeting. So let's start with a roll call. It'll be quick. Paul White.
Here.
Ron Kumitz.
Here.
Jim Mack.
Here.
And I am here as well, and we are missing Commissioner Morrison, Michael Wright, and Mike Dunges at the moment. So also joining us, of course, is Callie Audette as our administrative support person. And I see several members of the public, so we will go around the room. I'll call your name and give you an opportunity to introduce yourselves and any affiliation that you care to share. So let me start at the top of my list. I'm showing someone calling in under the name of Lori Haskins.
I think that might be Springfield Police.
Is that Chief Burnham?
I'm not sure how that name, but I am on the line.
Okay, Chief. Okay, thank you. Yes, it is popping up that way. But welcome, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay. Stephen Whitaker, you look to be next on the list.
I'm here.
Okay. Derek.
Derek Detroit with Altaris Technology
Welcome.
Partners.
Philip Sisk.
Good afternoon, Phil Sisk with Mission Critical Partners.
Welcome. Richard Townend.
Good afternoon, Richard Townend with Altaris.
Okay, great. That looks to be the list. Welcome to everyone. And let's move on to approval of the agenda. The agenda was distributed to task force members by email and is also available on our webpage. Do task force members have any changes to the agenda? Nope.
No.
Okay. Hearing nothing, we'll consider the agenda approved and move on to public comment. I think we can allot up to 5 minutes for public comment. Anyone wishing to comment, if you could raise your hand or otherwise indicate your interest in speaking. And I'll call first on Stephen Whitaker.
I guess you could see my hand. You got the telepathy to see my hand over the telephone. That's good.
Well, I made an assumption, Stephen, that you might like to comment, so go ahead.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. At the risk of having my compliments about your diligence commitment of the task force to get this far along, I want to kind of highlight some of the other things that are also needing attention that can't wait, especially if this SME and project management RFP consume another month of time before the contracts are approved and executed. This task force should be discussing interim standards for purchases for people that are anxious to get out and buy radio improvements, whether or not we're going to discuss and or adopt existing national standards for resiliency and access to 911 data for propagation modeling. That's a fraught political issue, and it needs to be discussed among the task force, maybe or maybe not in executive session, and then raised to the Secretary of Administration, because there's no point in spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on radio propagation analysis. If we're going to use crap data, we're going to end up with a crap product. Governance, statewide governance. I've spoken before about that. Y'all need to discuss how you're going to interface with a opaque, secret FirstNet agenda for phase 2 of investments. Whether 911 and dispatch, I guess that can wait on expert analysis and recommendations. But we need to consider or discuss having the Emergency Communications Advisory Council reformed either by executive order or in statute to rein in or at least get eyes on the 10-year telecommunications plan, the statewide communications interoperability plan, the broadband board speed plan, fiber, and then other initiatives that are quasi-public like Velco's LMR network and possible LTE. But their fiber network around the state should be a core of any resiliency plan. We need to discuss pilot projects that got tabled, and we can't afford to just table it indefinitely because the SMEs are not going to be able to hit the ground running until there's a smaller bite-size area of focus to prove out their strategies. What I thought had been a $13 million investment in the statewide interoperability channels, Lifeline it was called, turns out to be over 20 million. And how does this task force get eyes and integrate that? Similarly, the congressionally directed spending, it's not sufficient that the task force just check off a box and say, we consulted with the commissioner, now she can go spend $9 million on whatever she wants. Those microwave upgrades apparently are being, what I'm told is they're being put out for independent expert review without having been engineered or a plan written for what we're investing in. So any rational operation does not spend $9 million without a plan, and you can't complete an independent expert review as is required by statute if you don't have a plan or any engineering. So does this task force have responsibility to keep eyes on the state police P25 upgrades, regional LMR systems? Those are, some of these regions have money and they are spending money. Some of them got grants through Homeland Security, but yet they're not on the radar yet. We cannot afford to have this be another discombobulated, off the rails initiative of poor planning. So integrated planning is kind of the watchword here. The Telecommunications and Connectivity Advisory Board is supposed to be advising on planning. They haven't met in years. The Emergency Communications Advisory Council has never been appointed, and the Governor's Emergency Preparedness Advisory Council operates in secret. But I bet that part of that secrecy is to prove that we're not very ready for emergencies. So there's your work plan. I don't think we can afford to hire a project manager when we haven't defined a project. And until we get subject matter experts to define what it is they're going to do between now and the time another bill passes, and have the task force debate or discuss at least, if not approve, those task orders, we're not ready for a project manager, but we certainly can't have a project manager that's conflicted in its relationship with the Department of Public Service and their decades-long chronic failed planning. That's enough for right now.
Thank you, Stephen. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to comment? Okay, hearing nothing, we will move on to the next agenda item, which moves us hopefully to executive session for the purpose of discussing one or more contracts. So we'll start like we usually do with step one. I will make a motion that the task force find that sharing information about bidder presentations and responses publicly would put the task force at a substantial disadvantage in making a decision about awarding a contract for the RFPs that are under consideration here. Is there a second?
Yes.
I will second that.
Okay. And is there any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye or raising your hand. Okay, I see Ron's hand is up electronically, and The remaining task force have voted in favor as well. Okay, so next step, I will make a motion that we move into executive session for the purposes of discussing one or more contracts.
I will second that motion as well.
Thank you, Ron. And a vote, all in favor, please raise your hand or indicate by saying aye. See, all task force member hands are up, so that motion is approved. Typically, we notify our guests when we're going to be returning to the public session. We can do that again today in the event that there is any action following executive session. There's an agenda item for that, so we'll return and address that one way or the other. Okay, so having said all that, let's move to the task
Barb,
force.
can I raise a point? Barb,
What
can
is
I
it,
raise a
Steve?
point of order?
What is
There
this,
was
Stephen?
with the Telecommunications Advisory Council, their statute was written specifically that when, in this case where you have a marginal quorum, you have to have a certain number of votes, a minimum number of votes. For instance, you've got a quorum of only 4 right now.
We have a
anyway,
quorum
I
of
guess- 4.
We have a quorum.
Yeah, and so in that case, that the connectivity board had to have a minimum of 4 affirmative votes to approve something in that regard. I don't know
We
whether
did.
this board has wrestled with that.
I think that
Okay,
we
well-
have a quorum. We voted to move to executive session, and that is what we will do. I will see all the task force members in the executive session link. Thanks very much.